The African Democratic Congress, ADC, and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar have called for the immediate resignation of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Josh Amupitan, citing concerns over his perceived impartiality and the integrity of the electoral process. The demand comes amid growing controversy surrounding claims that past comments attributed to Amupitan suggest political alignment with the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, raising concerns among opposition figures about the neutrality of the electoral body ahead of future elections. On Friday, Amupitan, through his spokesperson Adedayo Kitola, issued a rebuttal on claims that the INEC chairman was President Tinubu's supporter, affirming he is a neutral appointee, a requirement mandated by the Constitution to protect the sanctity of the nation's election space. The Supreme Court has scheduled a hearing for Tuesday in the appeals filed by the Kabiru Turaki-led faction of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the factional national chairman of the African Democratic Congress, David Mark. The three appeals are against the recent judgments by the Court of Appeal in Abuja. The Turaki-led PDP is against two judgments delivered on March 9, affirming two judgments of the Federal High Court in Abuja that ordered the People's Democratic Party not to hold its national convention, scheduled for November 15 and 16, 2025, until it complied with relevant statutory provisions, including the Electoral Act and Regulations and Guidelines for Political Parties 2022. The second was a judgment by Justice Lifu, delivered on November 14, 2025, in which the PDP was ordered not to proceed with its planned convention until it afforded a former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, the opportunity to prepare and contest as the chairmanship candidate in the elective convention. Mark's appeal is against the March 12 judgment of the Court of Appeal, which dismissed the ex-Senate President's appeal in relation to the ongoing leadership dispute in the party. Supporters of the David Mark-led faction of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, remain unsure of the ability of the party to conduct its national convention billed for Abuja on Tuesday as the leadership continues to keep them guessing on its plans for the event. Division among members is also mounting in several state chapters of the party ahead of the convention. Meanwhile, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, announced May 12, 2026 as the date for the inauguration of its newly elected state executives and chairmen across the country. In a statement issued by its National Publicity Secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, the party congratulated the officials on the successful and peaceful conduct of their state congresses, describing the process as a clear demonstration of the ADC's commitment to internal democracy, transparency, and the rule of law. In other news, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has said President Bola Tinubu remains politically ahead of opposition figures ahead of the 2027 general elections. Keyamo made the claim in a post on his verified X handle on Sunday, where he highlighted Tinubu's political experience and long-standing role in Nigeria's opposition politics. Joining us on Political Brief to discuss these stories is Arise News Director of News and Politics Editor, Somna Sambo. Good morning, Somna. Thanks for joining us today.
All right. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Vimbai. Good morning to our viewers.
Okay, Somna, just to make things easier, whatever Keyamo is saying about the president, what do you expect him to say anyway? He serves at the pleasure of the president. So we expect him to praise his principal. But quickly, your take on this matter of INEC and ADC, either INEC versus ADC or ADC versus INEC, and whether indeed the convention of the party will hold tomorrow, April 14, as previously announced. And then the point that the party is also having issues. Look at the congresses. They had issues in Edo State. They had issues in Katsina. There were controversies, even in Adamawa. So, the protests, the court case, what is really the prospect for that party, particularly now that Bolaji Abdullahi, the spokesperson of the party, says, well, they also have concerns about whether the party will be on the ballot. Then tomorrow, the court case involving PDP, the Turaki-led faction, insisting that the Wike faction is not victorious, and that in fact it was even wrong of the Wike faction to go and take over the secretariat. Those, I think, are the two... the PDP headquarters in Abuja, Wadata Plaza. So all of those issues, PDP, and then ADC, and then INEC, the state of play, in your view.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Abati. And I want to start with the issue of Keyamo. I mean, you know, he reminds me of somebody called Wadanas, former Minister of Special Duties under the Abacha administration, where, you know, Wadanas was a very strong voice who was always kicking campaign. I could remember one of his interviews that he granted CNN in 1998 in the run-up to that preparation for elections. As we were transiting towards democracy. And of course, he was so certain about how that election was going to hold and the certainty of Abacha, you know, contesting that election. And, you know, eventually we all saw how things turned out. Now, you know, appointees in government will definitely want to push out the narrative of their principles. I didn't expect Festus Keyamo to say otherwise. But nonetheless, I will just ask that they be not too, overconfident of the political process. Because if you look at the results of the last election, I think it will be bad politics on their part for them to confidently think that President Tinubu will just win. Because I'm thinking that they are over-strategizing in the APC and they are pushing their luck too far. Because, I mean, if not over-strategizing, talk to me how you would, in quote, be a very strong political strategist like President Bola Tinubu is, and then you allow all your opponents who had votes much more closer to you in the last general election to all be in one political umbrella, one political platform. I thought that the best of politics that will come out of President Tinubu is to ensure that these, disparate groups, the Peter Obi group, the Atiku group, the Kwankwanso group will still remain wherever they are. And then, you know, it may look like it will become much easier for President Tinubu to coast home. But whatever politics that the presidency and the APC-led federal government are playing that have led all the opposition to coalesce together and be, you know, in the same umbrella, for all the three key opposition leaders to come together and be in the same platform, for all the opposition political parties, including the smaller ones that they didn't want to coalesce together, to be thinking of coming together all against the APC. I'm thinking that the APC has overplayed itself. I'm thinking that, President Tinubu has, skillfully done politics in such a way that if he's not careful, it may affect his figures in the next election. Because if you look at how close the figures were, and you will know that it was more of like a narrow escape for President Tinubu in the last elections. And I would think that he wouldn't have allowed a situation whereby all these persons, Peter Obi having about 6.1, Atiku Abubakar having about 6.8, and then, of course, President Tinubu himself, and then all these other groups coming together. I'm thinking the tactics are, being overstretched. And so the APC strategists need to have a rethink and not be too confident. Now, let's talk about the issues that we have in the opposition political parties. Yes.
Was nicknamed Wada Noise. Are you saying that Keyamo is also making noise this time around?
Of course, I mean, you're not far away from that. If you look, he's always trying to look for the trouble of the opposition, trying to taunt them and all of that. I mean, that's the same thing that Wadanas was doing in those days. Himself and this young chap then, Kanu, who organized the youth, honestly asked for Abacha in, in 1998, where, Kanu was always saying that they had brought about 3 million Nigerian youths out to support Abacha. But on ground, I mean, the figures were like about 150,000. But of course, they went around the whole capitals of the world, letting people know that Nigeria could not survive without an Abacha. I hope we're not beginning to get into that kind of era. President Tinubu has, played the politics very well. And I continue to give him credit for what he's been doing because he's very good at politics. But when it comes to governance, it's left for Nigerians to know whether he's so much good at governance the way he's so good in politics. But of course, there has to be the role of you knowing that politics can always go the other way. Without wasting much time, let's talk about the issues of the ADC itself. The ADC will tomorrow be having 3 events. One is the national convention that they are planning to hold. The latest, I spoke with some of their officers. They told me that they've been trying to get a venue in Abuja. The Eagle Square was denied them, that the velodrome of the National Stadium in Abuja here was denied them, and that they had booked 2 event centers, and the owners of the event centers have been threatened and been asked, by people in quote that look like those part of the administration, asking the owners of those private enterprises not to give them out. So one of them even said that they had done some booking. But despite that, the booking had been done prior to that. And one continues to wonder what exactly will be leading to all of it. Because we saw the APC holding this convention at the Eagle Square, no hassles. The same thing with the PDP at the National Velodrome, no hassles. So, if indeed INEC has stepped down the ADC and they say ADC is not a force, then how come, it looks like ADC is also being deprived of these venues, which are public facilities for everyone. It's not meant for the governing party, neither is it meant for the major opposition as the PDP is. I believe every political party should have the right to host events at these places. And then INEC had been written to by the ADC, and of course these opportunities come, and then we see these challenges. I think that the ADC needs to put itself together while it has its own internal challenges. But nonetheless, we will wait as journalists to play our role tomorrow as we see whether that convention will hold or not. But they are insisting that the convention will hold, even if it's going to be at an open field. Our job at Arise News here is to monitor the events. And then the key second thing that will be happening tomorrow is the court. At the court, you will be seeing where the Supreme Court will be hearing this case of David Mark, and then, of course, trying to seek the interpretation of the court on the ruling of the Court of Appeal, whether indeed the Federal High Court should go ahead and listen to this court that was brought by Nafiu Bala Mohammed, because they are insisting that Section 83.5 clearly states that issues that have to do with the internal politics, internal affairs of political parties should not be heard. But of course, the Court of Appeal thought otherwise and said they should go back to the Federal High Court. And so they've now decided to go to the Supreme Court to seek an interpretation. So we'll be waiting to hear from that. And then the third factor is that same tomorrow, the Federal High Court will now be sitting on the same case. So, it's going to be a very tough situation for the ADC tomorrow. But I'm hearing that the Federal High Court may likely, in deference to the Supreme Court, step down its own case, and then we'll see how things play out. But the ADC itself continues to push strong and go ahead with its congresses, despite what INEC had warned, and then of course this convention, despite what INEC had warned. But of course they feel that they are in their own right to continue with these congresses, but the congresses have also shown the underbelly of the problems in the ADC. And Dr. Abati, I'd like to let you know that this is the clinical problem that we have with the polity in Nigeria. ADC says they want to come and save Nigeria. On the one hand, you can see that the issues of internal democracy are lacking in the party. Look at, for example, Edo State, Odige Oyegun and Senator Roland Owe. They are all at par fighting themselves over who is the rightful chairman-elect of the ADC in that state. The same thing you will see in Katsina, and then, of course, other states. Court, orders here and there flying up and down. And you just wonder, if ADC says it's coming to save Nigeria and it can't save itself from these little challenges within the party, what exactly is it coming to do at the center? It's not just to say you want to come and play opposition politics. Opposition politics actually starts from the internal democratic mechanisms within your party to show that you're in control of good governance and so on. Look at the infighting that has led them to this. If, for example, they had decided to give Nafiu Bala, Gombe, a position, even if it were a deputy national chairman, like you had said the other day, to just make him feel, like he belonged, they wouldn't be where they are. But people are already fighting for position, and political leaders are telling others that, look, you are too young to hold this position. We have been in this game. And that's why the APC keeps saying that, look, these are expired politicians. And these are people who have been causing trouble for Nigerians over the years. Now, can the ADC show that it's different? Because these are the problems that we're having. The major problem that we have is the lack of internal democracy in political parties. Whether the APC, the ADC, the PDP, it's a Nigerian political problem. And I don't know where citizens will go from here, because it looks like leadership recruitment is a very huge challenge in the country. And now let's talk about the congresses that have been said that will be inaugurated sometime next month. The ADC has to be very careful and see how it balances these factors with the former ADC state chairmen that were there. Because some of them are still claiming that their seats, their positions have not expired. Their tenures have not expired. And as a result of that, some of the congresses that are being conducted will be in violation of, what brought them into power. And if this is going to be the case, then of course it means the cases are just starting, just like other cases that we have. And then of course, what of other cases that the ADC still has? With the Kachuku group, for example, the other state chairmen that are saying that, look, they will organize their own convention, or have they agreed together to come and coalesce into this convention tomorrow? These are questions that we'll be expecting the ADC to answer. And people are looking at these platforms and already saying that with all these problems that we have in the ADC, many people are still coming into the ADC. I mean, you saw Mohammed Hatuddin, one of the PDP presidential aspirants last year, joining the ADC just yesterday. You have lots of people, former Kano governor, joining the ADC and all that. So we'll continue to wonder what exactly is in that ADC that's making them to join. But I think that they have their own game plan. And from what I'm hearing from some of the political leaders, they're actually insisting that if between now and May, middle of May, things don't go well, they may actually, adopt another political platform. But as to being on the ballot, like you have said, they are claiming that they actually be on the ballot.
All right. Well, a number of questions you've raised this morning, Somna. Time will tell. Time will tell. Thank you very much indeed for your time with us today on Political Brief.